Hi, so welcome to another of these videos where I'm combining digital and traditional workflows. This is a painting I'm going to be endeavouring to do today. This is from my debut novel, Dark Shepherd. You can find a link below if you're interested in reading the novel. Breel is the main protagonist in the book, which opens with her working on the beach, which is a place where spacecraft are crashed from orbit in order to break them up for salvage. She operates a team of gigantic machines like the one you can see in the background, called Dismantler machines, which she uses to break up the wrecks into even smaller pieces for salvage. So I do have a model of the Dismantler, and this is it. It's ridiculously complex and detailed for this purpose, but I didn't build it for this purpose. I built it some time ago. Just an exercise in 3D workflows. I just wanted to build as complex a model as I possibly could, just for the fun of it. I certainly wouldn't go to the trouble of building something this size with this complexity purely as a perspective aid. But as you can see, I really went to town on this and put masses of detail trying to imagine how the thing would actually work, which was quite useful actually when it came to writing the novel. If we zoom into the cockpit, you can see that Breel is actually sat at the controls. There's even a first aid kit behind her, a little concertina door, and yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed doing that. But anyway, it's a useful asset for this painting in this case, and I turned the thing to the side like this and did a render using volumetric lighting to give me a clue as to how that would look. So this is a photographic reference that I used for Breel. This model was in the studio at the time for some book covers that I was doing. So while she was there, I got her to stand, sit in a variety of poses for the Art of Fred Gambino Dark Shepherd book that I was also doing at the time. That's what it looked like after I took it into Photoshop and worked over it. As I've now taken to painting the backgrounds of these oil paintings with a complementary colour, I thought it'd be fun to use the colour picker and see what that came up with, and obviously that's mainly a greeny colour, so the complementary colour was a sort of mauvey purple. So anyway, I printed this out onto inkjet paper. The image is bigger than the printer can manage, so I printed it out on two pieces of paper that overlapped slightly. Then using a Stanley knife, cut it down the middle, and that enables me to put the two pieces together. This is what I'm actually going to be painting on this time, as opposed to the previous videos. This is a roll of canvas, and just cut any size that I like. On the light box, and the canvas is placed over the drawing, and I'm just using a pencil to draw in the outlines. So coming to stick the canvas onto the board, I had a bit of an unexpected experience, because normally with the previous surfaces it hasn't been an issue, and I just paint the transparent acrylic gesso onto the surface and then paint it on the board. But what I discovered with the canvas is that it started to roll up, which meant that I would end up with the gesso on the drawn surface, which obviously is not a good thing. So I suddenly under the gun to try and paint this as fast as possible, so that I could get the canvas on there before it rolled too much. So something of a bit of a tricky exercise. Not that it matters that much if you get the gesso on the drawn surface. Yeah, I mean, you could paint over the whole thing, but I didn't bother actually in this case. That's one of the advantages of using a primed canvas, that I didn't have to paint the primer on the top of it. So then a piece of hardwood on the top of that, and then pile a load of books onto the top of it to act as a weight. That's the art book there. If you're interested, check out below. So here's the final drawing on the board, on the easel, ready to paint. I'm using acrylic to paint this purpley colour in, because I don't want to wait days for it to dry. But the actual painting itself is water-based oil. I really like the water-based oil because you get all the advantages of oil colour, but none of the disadvantages. where I just clean my brushes using water and some washing up liquid, and yeah, it's fine. You don't get all the toxic smells of turpentine and white spirits. So as ever, I start off by painting in the darkest tones, which gives me a clue as to what the other tones should be. It just gives me a starting point. I like using the chisel brush because it enables me to paint fine lines as well as broad strokes just using the one brush. Quite a lot of black to paint with this particular painting. There's a variety of chisel brushes. I don't really use round brushes that much, but I just like the marks that the chisel brushes make. And I'm trying to keep it as loose as possible. It's very difficult. Years of painting every single rivet and hair on the character in and making it as photographic as possible. It's very difficult to suddenly try and loosen up, to decide is it loose or is it just not finished. So it's a kind of mix of cerulean blue, cadmium yellow light, and yellow ochre and burnt sienna for the darker tones, for the kind of toxic foggy background. Breel works on the beach, as I was saying earlier in the novel. The environment is very toxic because of all the polluted materials, so it's a very kind of dangerous place to work, but it's also a dangerous place for her to work because it's a very male orientated misogynist environment and she's subject to a lot of discrimination, which sets her off on the course of the rest of the book. So just added a bit more of the brown tones, burnt sienna, and a bit more cerulean blue to create those darker tones. There's a bit of glare on this painting, I'm sorry about that. I didn't realise I've just set up a new lighting system and I didn't realise it was going to affect the camera. But hopefully it's not too bad, you can still see what I'm doing. When I drew this all out, I quite like the big industrial shapes behind Breel. In the original digital rough, the Dismantler is very much lost in the background. It's almost just a flat shape. But in this instance, I wanted to try and keep some of those industrial shapes. In the interest of full disclosure, this scene doesn't happen in the book. In the painting, it looks like she's having a lunch break, but the environment is far too toxic for her to be able to do that, so I'm using a bit of artistic license. I just like the idea of Breel sat in contemplation with a gigantic machine behind her, hazed by fog. So I put in a very bright red bandana around her head there, which I thought would help to draw the viewer's eye, and again red against all that complementary green hues in the background. So I'm using a mahl stick at this point to try and steady my hand a bit. It's something I try and avoid doing as much as I can because I'm aiming to achieve a loose look, which I kind of more or less am managing to achieve. It's still a bit of a work in progress. That's something that I'm still trying to aim for. This is the final painting. I've tried not to overwork it. The main difference from a digital rough is the rusty metal thing Breel is sat on. In the rough it's a flat shape, but I think painting it this way has really grounded her in the picture, brought her forward from the background. I really like the canvas surface. It stuck down really well, and apart from the curling during the gluing phase, it didn't curve the board while it was drying, which the paper surfaces have a tendency to do, and it has a nice tactile feel, gripping the paint really well. I hope you got something out of that. Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like if you did and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.